where someone started, which was just like all of you, you know, in the same boat, doing the same things that you guys are all doing, and then kind of what it's turned into. So I did start 5 years ago, and the only reason I started was because I wanted all the products in the catalog for free. Like, I just wanted to stash my kitchen with really good stuff. And it was actually my third job. So I was working a day job in city government. I actually ran the Parks and Rec department for our city. And I taught Zumba classes at night because I loved fitness, I loved dancing. And so Pampered Chef was the third thing that I was going to squish in there somewhere. I didn't really know where, but I was like, whatever, it's cool. So then I saw how much money you can make with Pampered Chef, and I thought, oh, well, maybe I can do a little bit more. And so we used my Pampered Chef income to pay off over $20,000 of student loans, like in the first year. And so we paid off all of our debt except for our mortgage. So we were completely debt free, utilizing that for paying down all of our debt. And then I had my son. So I had two kids at that point. My daughter was 3 and my son was just born. And I was like, you know, I kind of want to stay home. And I think I can now that I have my Pampered Chef business. It's going to be tight. Like, when I decided to quit my job, it was risky because I was not making as much as I needed to make to cover my full-time job. And I carried the benefits for us at my job. I was the breadwinner. But I thought, you know, as soon as I quit my job, my Pampered Chef business is going to explode because I will have so much time to invest into my business. So it did. It did. And it carried us on through a move because we moved from Oregon up to Seattle. And my husband didn't need to have a job at that time. Like, we were able to move and I could still do my job because it was all virtual. So it really, and then when we bought a house here in Washington, we qualified for this house 100% on my Pampered Chef income, which is crazy because the Seattle housing market is very expensive. And this house is almost $500,000, which is insane. So just knowing that you can do amazing things with your business if you want that to be the case. And I was actually doing a goal setting exercise with my team this weekend, looking at 2020 and setting goals for what you want in your business. And I looked back at my goals that I set in 2016, and I kept, if you ever do goal setting exercises, keep your goals that you write down year by year, because then you can go back and look at them. And it's very fascinating to see what you can check off that list. Well, back in 2016, I wrote down that my lifetime goal, this is crazy, gives me goosebumps. My lifetime goal was I wanted to earn $5,000 a month with Pampered Chef. I was like, if I could earn $5,000 with Pampered Chef, like, that'd be amazing. That's my lifetime goal. Granted, I was still working full time at that time. Last month, my check, and I don't share this to brag, I share this to inspire you, was $27,000 for 1 month, all Pampered Chef. That's insane. That's like beyond 6-figure income. So I was clearly not dreaming big enough at the time in 2016 when I set those goals. But I share that with you because it's out there and the money's on the table for all of us. And we don't have to apply for a job to get it. We don't have to be liked by an interviewer to have that kind of income coming in. Like, it's out there for all of us. We all can rise to the top and be earning that same level of income. So what I wanted to talk about today are habits that I think you will want to put into place, anyone should put into place, to have a thriving business. And as aspiring leaders in this Director Bound, these are things that you want to do not only for yourself, but also to model the behavior for your consultants, okay? And as you bring in new consultants, you're modeling that behavior for them. So the first habit I want to talk about, number 1, is every 4 add 1 more. So how many of you guys have heard of the every 4 add 1 more concept? Or Carrie, do you guys teach that concept a little bit? Okay, good. Okay. So but what I want to add a few things to this here. So just for anyone who's not familiar, it's every 4 parties aim to add 1 new consultant to your team. Okay. So that ratio is 1000% doable. It is if you are intentional and focused about it. But here is what I preach to my new consultants: 4 virtual parties a week. So it's not 4 a month or 4 however often. It's let's aim for 4 virtual parties per week. That is going to help you achieve all the rewards and all the things, and it's very doable. So if my consultants are doing 4 virtual parties per week, they could recruit 1 person a week. Imagine what that could do for you and for your consultants that welcome to your team, if you're all doing 4 parties a week and you're bringing in 1 new consultant a week. Now, that's not going to happen right away because you have to learn how to be a skilled recruiter and how to welcome people to your team. But if you're aiming for it, you're way more likely to hit that or come close to it than if you were not aiming for that to begin with. So some of you might be thinking, well, like, there's no way I could do 4 virtual parties a week, or my people could even do 4 a week, or whatever. So to make it easy or doable for new consultants, I teach them right off the bat to sign up for Post My Party and do all the things so that they automate every aspect of running the party. Because if it's automated, they can actually handle that, where if it's not automated, they can't. And so back in the day, I used to give them the option to sign up for a posting service. And now I'm like, it's not optional. I don't even tell them that. I'm just like, okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to go sign up for the free 30-day trial of Post My Party, and you get it free for 30 days. That's why I suggest you cram as many parties as you can into your first 30 days. After that, it's only $9.95, and you can decide if you want to keep using it or not. So that helps them get to that 4 every week and be able to have life around Pampered Chef. So we have new consultants that are selling $4,000 to $5,000 in their first month because they're doing what we're asking them to do. And yes, I give them a template so that they don't have to build their own. They can run with that template. So I'm trying to make it as easy as I can for them to do 4 parties a week. So thinking about your own schedule is aiming for 4 virtual parties per week, and then teaching your team to do the same, and having 1 new consultant welcome to your team from that. So how do you get 4 parties a week? Maybe you're struggling with bookings and you're like, that's great, Kristen, but I can't even get bookings. So the second habit is asking for bookings daily. So a few things that have helped me in keeping consistency in my calendar and having those bookings all the time is whenever I sit down to work my business, if it's for 30 minutes or an hour or whatever, I sit down to work my business, the first 10 minutes every time, at least once a day, for sure once a day, I will send booking messages. So even if it's 10 minutes a day and you're sitting down to work your business for an hour and that's all you have for the day, the first 10 minutes of that, you're asking for bookings. And so you need systems in place of who to ask, follow-up systems of who you can follow up with, and having this consistent flow of new contacts coming into your friends list, coming into your network. So as far as who to ask, so if you're like, okay, great, I can do 10 minutes of asks a day. I'm going to do that at the beginning of my work time, no matter what, but who am I asking? So what I like to do is do like an inventory of my friends list. And so I will very regularly go through my friends list from A to Z. Literally, just pull it up on your phone. I feel like it's the only way I can get it in alphabetical order, but find a list in alphabetical order of your friends list and just go from the top all the way to the bottom, because you'll be surprised that there's people in there that you forgot to follow up with, that you had talked to at one point about it. Or maybe there's someone who said not right now, but maybe later, and you don't have them on a follow-up list and you could be asking them. So just do an inventory and see what kind of loose leads are out there in your friends list. Then what I preach is friend requesting everyone that's in your parties, because then you're adding to that pool of contacts. And when you do this friends list inventory every quarter, so every 2 to 3 months, you're adding more to that contact list. And so that can really help expand your contacts. In addition to that, I like to have very specific follow-up lists. So if I'm talking to someone and they can't do right now, but I need to follow up with them in a couple months, there's a spot on my calendar, and I'll show you guys. I'm still old school and I love paper. I love just seeing a whole month at once and seeing all my stuff on that month at once. So I still use paper, but like here's my December month spread. Okay, so every month I have a full spread, right, for the month. So for me, this is how I do it. I flip to the first page right after every single month, and it says December follow-up. And I make a list of all the names of everyone I need to follow up with for December parties. And come January, same thing. I'm going to flip the page over, flip the page after the spread. So it's in the same spot for every month. And then I know when I'm going to book that month that I'm going to reach out to that list first. And that's my asks first. So the point of that is that you need a system. You need a follow-up system that you can write down or list somehow all your follow-ups for which months. And then you have a set day or time or week of the month that you go through and you ask those follow-ups for the coming months. Because how often, all the time, right? We're asking and they're like, oh, I can't do it right now. And I'm like, that's cool. What about something in the spring? Could I follow up with you later? Kind of thing, getting permission to follow up and then put them on the list. So that's another piece. And then also, it's good to expand your network of contacts through just meeting new people. And I am very much an introvert. I'm not naturally outgoing. I would rather just hang out at home with a book than be in a crowd of people. Gives me anxiety. So there's no way I can just talk to random people at the grocery store or out and about. Like back when I first started, they're like, oh yeah, just like give people catalogs when you're in the grocery store. And I'm like, what? I could never do that. Like that is, I would like pee my pants. So here's how I network and add contacts to my contact list with being an introvert. And if you're an extrovert, like this, there are so many ways that you can do this. But for me, it is all about like finding groups of people. It could be virtually or it could be locally that have common interests as me. And I plug myself into those groups and meet new people. So let me give an example. This is going to be like the silliest example. So I'm a big Bachelor fan. So every Monday night we have a viewing party at my house. But this doesn't have to be you, obviously, like whatever. But the example is that this is an interest I have, and I find other people in my neighborhood who have the same interest, and we all get together and we watch The Bachelor together. And there's like mom groups for my neighborhood because we live in like a little neighborhood. There's mom groups and I'm like advertising on the mom groups like, hey, as moms, let's get together and have some wine and watch The Bachelor. So I'm ever expanding my contacts and building friends. And I'm not doing this with the intent to advertise my business. I'm doing this with the intent to meet new people, build relationships, make new friends. And you best believe at some point, someone's going to ask me, what do you do? And boom, it opens the door. So it's not me like actively advertising my business. It just naturally comes to be a part of the conversation at some point. Yes, this is a slow way to build your contacts, but it works. And one lady who always comes to my house for this, she refers me to everyone and anyone now. If there's anyone on any Facebook page that needs anything Pampered Chef, I swear she's on there like 2 seconds after they post and comment, and she tags me in everything. So I've gotten so much business just from her, like referring people to me. That's another example. Another one is, so yes, I'm a mom and my kids are preschool age or slowly transitioning out of that. But, and again, this is just my example. You can probably think of others for yourself. So there's a moms group that gets together. It's called MAPS. It's Mothers of Preschoolers. They get together twice a month. And when I first moved here, I was like, I don't have friends. I need friends. I'm going to go to MAPS. So I started going to MAPS and I met so many moms. I mean, there's like 80 people in our MAPS group. That's 80 potential new contacts. And I was not going to MAPS to sell my business. I was going with people with similar interests to make new friends and just get to know people. And so it's funny because this was like 2 or 3 years ago. And I am not one to sell my business. It comes up in conversation and then it just kind of flows. Now, not kidding you, there's like 5 or 6 ladies in our MOPS group that are now on our team. And I'm pretty sure 40 of them have all had Pampered Chef parties. Like it's just naturally, it's just kind of like filtered out and not with me advertising it at all. It's just coming up in natural conversations. So, okay, you get the point, right? Find groups with similar interest, network, build connections. The last piece on that is if you are more business oriented, I'm very business oriented, but there's like every town, unless you live in the boondocks of Montana, every town has a chamber of commerce. So go look at your chamber and be like, do they have networking events? A lot of them do. It could be once a month. It could be weekly. Yes, you might have to be a member, which usually is a low fee. It could be like 50 or 100 for the whole year. Depends on the chamber, but they get together. And my old one would do weekly meetings with 60 to 70 people coming to this meeting. And it was a time for you to purposefully advertise your business, because chamber is all about small business and local business. So you're there to advertise your business, but it is networking. And so anytime I needed a dentist or a contractor or an electrician, I was like, oh, I'm friends with all these people because I've been going to the chamber meetings and I know who my tribe of people are that I need help from, and we do business with each other. So that's another really great way to expand your contact list on a regular basis, because that will help you when you're trying to get bookings regularly, right? Okay, so the third habit is host coaching. And really, it's like there's no specific thing with host coaching. I just put host coaching. So as you get these bookings, the best way to ensure successful business down the road is to do a good job with that party, right? Because when you have a great outcome on that party, it's not only going to give you sales, it's going to give you 2 to 3 bookings, and it might even give you a recruit. So really invest in your host coaching and make sure that you are not only just doing the things of like the logistics, but building the relationships with the host, because your host is your number one most likely candidate to join your team out of anyone in that party. And so make sure that you're creating an experience for that host that is a good one. So I like to think of it as this entire time that I have this host, I am creating an experience that she's having, and hopefully it's a good one, because if it is, she's way more likely to refer her friends. She's way more likely to go get bookings for me. She's way more likely to book again in 6 months to a year, and you're building that relationship. So what are you doing to create a good host coaching experience for your host? So then within that experience, I say you should ask your host 5 times about the business. So with it, like if here's the first, you book the party, the end of the party, everything wraps up. Within that entire time of that experience, there's 5 asks with the host. And so long as you're asking in a non-slimy way, it's not going to come out like salesy, especially if you're building relationship and getting to know them. It will be more natural to be able to have those asks with them. So that is like a totally different topic for another day, but that's a part of the habit, is you need to have good systems in place to do a great job with host coaching. Okay, and then the last habit is recruiting. So habit number 4 is recruiting, and I know you've already had a training on recruiting, but I just want to throw out a couple tidbits, because these are habits that I think you should do consistently to make sure that you're getting the results you want from your business, and then modeling that for your team and whoever comes on that's new. Okay, so recruiting. So how do you get 1 from every 4? Okay, so I think this is what it comes down to. You need to have at least 3 two-way conversations about the business for every party that you do. Okay, so if you have 3 two-way conversations, and that means they're responding back to you, right? So 3 two ways. That means for 4 parties, if you have 3 for each, you'll be having 12 two-way conversations. Usually 1 in 10 will sign up. 1 in 10 two ways. So that's ensuring that you're probably going to sign 1 out of that, okay? My ratio, and this would actually be fascinating for anyone who is a leader on this call, like you've been with the business for a little while, is go find out what your ratio is. How many are you actually recruiting for every 4 parties? My ratio is like 1.6. Like I recruit 1.6 people for every 4 parties, or no, for every party. So I'm over 70 people for the year. Like it's crazy. So this works, you guys. It totally works. Okay, so what I want you to be thinking about is how do you get those two-way conversations? Because if it comes down to the two-way conversations and the math with that, which it does, then how do you get them? Well, I think one part of it is having enough people in your party. You need people in your party to have people to ask. And that comes back to host coaching, right? We already talked about that, the importance of that. So you need people to ask. But you also need to be creating desire for the business in your parties. So how are you creating desire for the business in your parties? Like, how are you writing and sharing your story? Because your story is probably the most impactful thing that you can share in your parties. So when you write a story, an effective story, and your story is like why you signed up and what you do with the Pampered Chef income, or if you're new, like what you want to do with the income, is you need to think about every different component of your story that you can include. So when you write a post that has your story in it, you don't want these long paragraphs, but you do want it to be effective, so you could bullet point things out. But what I mean by every different aspect is, like, you need to hit different demographics. So let me give an example. So I could, like, if I was writing mine, for example, I could say, I started with Pampered Chef 5 years ago, and I was working full time. I was a breadwinner, and this was my third job. And the reason I started was because I wanted everything for free in the catalog, but it's turned into so much more. We've been able to pay off all of our student loans. We bought this house with our Pampered Chef income, and I could go on and on about the things. But what I just did is anyone who has a second or third job would relate to me. Anyone who wants to pay off student loans would relate. Anyone who wants to buy a house would relate. Anyone who worked a full-time job would relate, just in those two or three sentences. Now for you, you don't have all that stuff that you can say Pampered Chef is paid for you. But instead you could say, I started Pampered Chef because I absolutely love the products. I love to cook. I'm just making this up. And I would love to use my Pampered Chef income to pay off all of our debt, to pay off our car loans and pay off our credit card debt. And our ultimate goal is to go on a family vacation every single year. It would mean so much to our family to just have that time aside, creating experiences together. It would relieve a little pressure off my husband for the money that he brings into our household. I mean, like, you could go on and on. But what I just did was, again, anyone who has car loans, credit card debts, anyone who wants to go on vacation, anyone who has a spouse that works their butt off for the family, anyone who wants to, create experiences with their kids and their family. Like, do you see where I'm going here? Everything that you can include, you need a wide variety of things so that you're hitting different demographics in your party so that they can relate to that. Because maybe you don't have a stay-at-home mom in your party, but you have someone working their fanny off and they want to go on vacation, so you're still relating to people. So you need to have a really good story in there. And I also think it's really good to show how much can be made with Pampered Chef. So maybe that could be through a game. It used to be a commission check game where people would like showcase their commissions. So I'm actually transitioning out of that because for various reasons. But what I'm transitioning to, I mean, it's hard for people to relate to a $27,000 commission check, honestly. Like, they're like, well, she's making that much money. There's no way I can make that money, right? So I'm like, I don't know that I want that aired out there for everyone because they might not feel like they can relate to me. So instead, what I'm going to transition to is more of like, guess what my Pampered Chef income paid for this month. And then they answer, and they're going to guess. It could be like my mortgage and whatever, like, what, I haven't fully developed the concept yet, but it's all these different things that it paid for, right? And then when I post the answer, it's going to have like a picture, and it's going to have like, the 529 college account. It's going to have the farmhouse, that we're getting ready to buy, and all the things. It's going to have like all this stuff on there represented. So you need to not just have your story, but you also want to have something else in your party, whether it's a commission check or whether it's, reworking, well, what could this pay for kind of thing. So from a habit standpoint of recruiting, I want you to look at what area can you improve on so that you are getting 3 two-way conversations. Your host is always one. And then usually I say 2, if I could do math, your host is 1, your guests are 2. You want 2 guests that you have two-way conversations with. So what I say is usually you need to reach out to at least 5, maybe 6 to have 2 of them respond back to you. So 5 to 6 people in every party you should be asking about the business, whether it's party rock stars who are commenting on all the things, or people who ask questions on the Q&A post, which is like, ask me any question about the business. Between those two groups, the rock stars and the Q&Ers, you should be able to be asking 5 to 6 people about the business. And then that should equate to two-way conversations about the business. And then you have your host. Hopefully you're doing your 5 asks with your host. Okay. That is how you consistently get to every 4 add 1 more. All right. So I want to leave you with time for questions, but just to wrap things up, anyone can have success in this business with consistency and dedication, because you're going to come across roadblocks and things that derail you. And the only way that you will stay on course is if you are dedicated and if you're consistent and if you're like, it's cool, I'm going to find a way over it, through it, under it, around it, whatever. Because even people like myself who've been here 5 years and are making multiple 6 figures, like, there have been a wide variety of things that have come in my way multiple times, heck, like sometimes every week, sometimes every month, new things to deal with. And so you just have to find a way through it and around it. And those that do that have the most success with their business. So hopefully you were able to take away some habits that will help your business, that will be great to model for your team members as you're welcoming team members to your team. And yeah, what questions do people have?
Don't be afraid to ask. And thanks so much, Kristin.
Mm-hmm.
When you're running that many parties, do you have any issues with the J word going to the clink?
Yeah, so good question. So I created a workaround, and I don't know if I should really share this with you guys, but I'm going to. So I run like 8 to 12 parties a week. So in order to do that, I need to get creative, right? So when all this jail stuff was happening, actually years ago, I created a second Facebook account. So it was like, I have 2 Facebook accounts. I have my primary profile that I use all the time, and I have the secondary account that used to be my backup. Like when I got thrown in jail, it was my backup account. Well, when all this stuff flared up again this year, I was like, I'm going to do things different. So I run half of my parties posting as my secondary profile. I run the other half of my parties posting as my primary profile. And when you run it through a business page, which we all should be doing according to Facebook regulations, you can add multiple admins to your Facebook page. So I have lots of admins on my Facebook page, and any admin can post for me, and it shows up as Pampered Chef with Kristin Wierenga. So for anyone who runs more than 4, then I might consider getting creative. If you ever create a second Facebook account, they will flag you so fast. So you have to make it a different name, use a different email, use a different phone number, use a different profile picture. Nothing can even seem like you already have an account, or they'll shut you down because you can't have a duplicate account. So it could be your cat, it could be your dog, it could be whatever. Like I took a picture of me with a hat and sunglasses on, so there wouldn't be any facial recognition from this second account to my first account because they'll flag facial recognition. So anyways, that's a long answer. But for my new consultants who are doing 4 a week, they don't have issues. But I am encouraging them to tweak the template I give them. It's like, make the word sound like you. Like after a couple weeks, go find some fun new pictures and like swap the pictures out. So that it's starting to get variety on the template, and that helps too. But we generally have been okay. And if it flares up, I'm like, go make a second account and post through that, and let your primary account rest for like 7 to 10 days. So that's the best thing to do, is go run everything through the secondary account if you're in jail or have been flagged for jail, like if you can't post. And then the account, maybe the primary account that has been flagged, don't do anything on that account. You can message, but that's like the only thing. You can't like things, you can't post things, you can't do anything. And let it be for 7 to 10 days so it can remove the flag that they basically put on your account. Because there's a flag there, and you'll just get thrown back in unless you just lay low for like a week.
When you do
Thank
the,
you.
Yeah.
When you do the friend request, I do this as well. Do you only do participants, or do you also do all members?
So I coach people to do all members, but I am maxed out on friends. So for me, I have to be strategic about who I friend because you can only have 5,000 friends. So I'm actually having to delete friends to be able to add more friends. So I only do the ones that are commenting. But for you guys, if you're not maxed, I would say everyone. And yeah, I mean, you might not be interacting with those people, but you never know who might accept it, and later on you can have an interaction with them.
Yep. It's interesting to know there's a max.
There is, and it sucks because I'm like, well, who do I delete? Sorry, Paper Chef consultants. like I need new customers. Yeah. Yeah.
Anyone else have questions?
Question. When you're going through your Facebook friend list A to Z,
Yeah.
I like your calendar for like checking back with them, but how are you tracking your contacts as you go?
So you could do this in a notebook, but I do it in a Google Doc. So basically, it like because I'm deleting friends, if I've had contacts with them before and I've asked and they like don't ever respond to me, I just delete them as a friend just because I'm running out of space. So I don't really have to worry about going back to follow up with them again, but I just make a note like in my Google Doc, like here's who I left off with, today, so I know where to pick up on, and I make notes like who has potential to book or whatever. So I just have this running Google Doc list that I go back to every time as I go through it. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Yeah. And I'll be totally honest, when you get to this level, a lot of people don't realize this. When you get to this level, most of us have assistants, like office assistants, and that's a job my office assistant does. So I don't actually do that. She does it for me, but I don't want you guys to think that we're like superhuman and we can just do all the things. We usually have office partners that help us with stuff, and so that's one of her jobs.
I want one of those.
It's amazing. I love her. She's amazing. Yeah.
Kristen, can I ask on, like you kind of talked about the time that you use, but how many people on average do you think you're reaching out to every day?
For bookings?
Yes.
I tell my consultants 30 a day. So, and that seems like a lot, but even if you try for 30, you don't hit 30, you're still in a good position, right? So I try to message at least 30 a day myself. But once you build up, it takes time. Once you build up your list, then you have people to ask, and you have 30 to ask. I mean, there's so many different people I could ask. I could ask people who've ordered from me before. I could ask my January hosts from last year. Like I could go through my friends list. Like soon, if you do the right things, you will have like, oh, well, who do I start asking today? I have too many people to ask. It's great. It's a great problem to have. But yeah, so 30 a day is a good goal.
Thanks.
Yeah. And I will add to that real quick. I know we're running out of time, but real quick, as you do parties, so if you are doing 4 a week, your asks are your people in your parties to start. And that could cover, hopefully you have at least 30 in each party. That covers 4 days of asks right there. Because you could take one party a day and be like, I'm going to ask this party today, I'm going to ask that party tomorrow, and that party the next day. And then the other few days, you could take a day or two off. The other few days, then you just go through your friends list.
I love that. Well, I'm sure we'll be cut off here soon, but just wanted to thank you so much, Kristen, for taking your time to teach us and to help us grow. So we definitely appreciate it a ton. So yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah. Thank you.
Bye.